I have concluded that there should be judgment for Mr. Mitchell in the sum of $300,000 for non-economic loss and $50,000 in aggravated damages. As I say in my reasons, he may well have been justified in being ordered to pay more than $50,000 in aggravated damages.
Okay, so we have a bit of a high-profile case. And that is the Billy Mitchell lawsuit versus YouTuber Carl Jobst. Now, if you're not familiar with Billy Mitchell, he is an infamous speedrunner, we'll say. And he's had a very, very controversial history of allegedly faking his speedrunning. And there's been a lot of claims against him. And every time people have come up against him, he's had this little technique I like to call the lawsuit maneuver. Know what that is called? Basically suing everybody who says something about you. And so that's what happened there. And of course, Carl Jobst is somebody who covers, infamous speedrunners. And so he'll cover people who are caught cheating live on speedrunning. So that's usually what his channel does. And so, yeah, he's basically one of those investigative people, but more for like gaming side. So, yeah. Now, the reason why speedrunning is very looked at very delicately because while there's like exploits and stuff you can use in a video game, any way that hurts the integrity of your run, you can't use it as a world record. But that's essentially what that whole situation is. So I actually have the actual documentation here, and it's about 118 pages long, but I'm only going to go through, the parts that I thought were most relevant and the parts that a lot of people were hovering over. So I did parse through some of it myself to see what was important. But so it says here, judgment for the plaintiff for damages for non-economic loss in the sum of $300,000 plus interest of $34,668.50, subject to either party seeking a different order as to interest upon delivery of this judgment or by filing and serving a written submission within 14 days, and for aggravated damages in the sum of $50,000 plus interest of $5,778.08, subject to either party seeking a different order as to interest upon delivery of this judgment or by filing and serving a written submission within 14 days, unless either party seeks a different order as to costs, either upon delivery of this judgment or by filing and serving a written submission within 14 days, the defendant pay the plaintiff's costs of the proceeding. So, as you know, Carl has been covering Billy Mitchell for a long time. Like a very long time. And so, actually, an interesting note that he did in his coverage was that I have from The Guardian here, Jobst, who makes videos about speedrunning, as well as gaming records and cheating in games, made a number of allegations against Billy Mitchell in 2021 YouTube video. He accused Mitchell of cheating and pursuing unmeritorious litigation against others who had also accused him of cheating, the court judgment stated. The court heard Mitchell was accused in 2017 of cheating in his Donkey Kong world records by using emulation software instead of original arcade hardware. Twin Galaxies investigated the allegation and subsequently removed Mitchell's scores and banned him from participating in its competitions. The Guinness Book World Records disqualified Mitchell as a holder of his records in both Donkey Kong and Pac-Man after the Twin Galaxies decision. So, yeah, basically getting coverage on some of his runs ended up getting him, caught in the public eye, and his records were taken down. However, the Guinness Book of World Records would actually later put them back in, as their statement here says, in the light of compelling new evidence received by Guinness World Records, the records management team has unanimously decided to reverse decisions made in April 2018 in regards to video game high score achieved by Billy Mitchell between 1982 and 2010. As of 10th of June 2020, the following historical records for the arcade platform has been reinstated. The 3rd of July 1999, first perfect Pac-Man score. 7th of November 1982, highest score on Donkey Kong. June 4th, 2005, highest score on Donkey Kong. 14th of July and 2007, highest score on Donkey Kong. And July 31st, highest score on Donkey Kong again. This reinstatement also recognizes Mr. Mitchell as the first gamer to reach the kill screen of Donkey Kong on the 7th of November 1982 and the first gamer to achieve or to score 1 million points on Donkey Kong, 4th of June 2005. Guinness World Records is always open to accepting new evidence for historical achievements and to reviewing new and existing evidence for disputed titles. In this case, a re-examination of the records in question and the emergence of key eyewitnesses and expert testimonials led to a reversal of earlier disqualifications and the reinstating of Mr. Mitchell's original records. The records archive has been updated accordingly to reflect this. So it's quite a lot to take in. So as I've said earlier, he's had a very controversial history when it comes down to his video game records. And a lot of people have, tested is his records legit? And so one case I have is this old thread where it actually discussed here. Below, you'll find a large collection of animated GIFs. Please take the time to read this entire post before jumping to them, and please continue what is posted after them. In summary, these GIFs show that each of the Donkey Kong World Record direct recordings presented by Billy Mitchell and verified by TG were generated in MAME and not by original Donkey Kong hardware. So these scores are 1 million and Kong tape, you have 1,000,005, 1,062. In order to demonstrate this, it is necessary to understand how DK images are generated by MAME versus an original PCB. So I'm just actually going to tell you how it works, or at least how I understood how it works, so I read it. But essentially it's like this. So the way that the game loads in an emulator is very different to the way the original hardware will load a game. So how you understand this hurts the integrity of a speedrun, you ask? Well, if you're using an emulator and it has certain quality of life or certain features that are added, then your run is not legit because you can't make the claim that you did the speed run or you got the high score on the original hardware. And so here I'm going to show you that if you compare the footage of some other people compared to what Billy Mitchell had posted, you can see here it's a little very, very interesting. So yes. So yeah, while emulators will have certain features on them that makes things faster, generally speaking, original hardware, from what I've used of it, it loads very differently. It processes information very differently. And so an emulator can sometimes, speed it up a little bit. So it hurts the integrity of your speed run in a nutshell. So now that that's all out the way, let's get on to probably the most contentious part of this entire lawsuit. Now, starting off with our first part here, we have on May 26th, 2021, Mr. Jobs published a YouTube video entitled "The Biggest Conman in Video Game History Strike Again." In some detail, he accused Mr. Mitchell and another person, Ted Rogers, of cheating and pursuing unmerited litigation against people who accused him of cheating. He also said the following about Mr. Mitchell. He also sued YouTuber Apollo Legend for $1 million. I haven't spoken about this publicly, but this lawsuit ultimately ended with Apollo giving in and settling with Mitchell. He was forced to remove all of his videos about Mitchell's cheating and paid him a large sum of money. This left him deeply in debt, which required him to find extra work, but with his ongoing health issues, this was all too much of a burden, and ultimately he took his own life. Not that Billy Mitchell would even care, though. In fact, when Billy Mitchell thought Apollo died earlier, he expressed joy at the thought. The lawsuit against Apollo was just as frivolous as the rest, and Apollo definitely would have won in court, but again, he was extremely ill and couldn't handle the ongoing stress. So I'm actually going to play that portion for you now, because I just to understand where exactly the lawyers for Billy Mitchell had actually honed in for the lawsuit, because that's really what this lawsuit was about. With making a defamation about him, falsely putting on somebody's debt onto him. So yeah, let's play the clip and see what he said here.
Apollo Legend for $1 million. I haven't spoken about this publicly, but this lawsuit ultimately ended with Apollo giving in and settling with Mitchell. The lawsuit against Apollo was just as frivolous as the rest, and Apollo definitely would have won in court, but again, he was extremely ill and couldn't handle the ongoing stress. Mitchell threatened to sue Guinness World Records.
So I can imagine that whenever a lawyer heard that part, where you're basically implying that you're responsible for somebody dying, that's not really, that kind of tells me that you don't have a case. But I'm no lawyer, but I'm just going off of an educated guess. But now, and there's actually another party that might surprise you who's involved in this. Keemstar has actually got mentioned here, actually. And it says in this portion here, on the second version of the video, on the 4th of June 2021, Mr. Keem contacted Mr. Jobs by Twitter saying, "Hey, gotta speak to you about Apollo and Billy Mitchell stuff," and asking for his telephone number. Mr. Jobs told the court that he provided that number, and Mr. Keem then called him, telling him that Mr. Mitchell was unhappy about the assertion that Apollo Legend had paid him money in settlement because it was not true. Mr. Jobs told Mr. Keem that he would remove that part of the video and investigate further by contacting Apollo Legend's brother to check if it was correct. He told Mr. Keem that if it was correct, he would make a public statement, and if he did not hear anything back, he would leave out the words. Having received a telephone call from Mr. Keem, Mr. Jobs altered the video on 4th of June 2021 to remove the following words: I haven't spoken about this publicly, but this lawsuit ended with Apollo giving in and settling with Mitchell. He was forced to remove all his videos about Mitchell's cheating and paid him a large sum of money. This left him deeply in debt, which required him to find extra work, but with his ongoing health issues, this was all too much of a burden, and he ultimately took his own life. Not that Billy Mitchell would ever care. In fact, when Billy Mitchell thought Apollo died earlier, he expressed joy at the thought. Having done so, he sent a message to Mr. Keem saying, I have edited out that section. Will take a few hours. This is based on your word. I will be confirming from his brother. Also, if his brother backs up this, Mitchell provides any concrete evidence I was wrong, I will make a statement about it. If I have nothing concrete, I'll just leave the video as edited out and won't mention it anywhere. Apparently, he removed that part of the video before he saw Mr. Mitchell's response video. When he saw it later that day, in response, Mr. Jobs published a tweet in which he said, "Apparently, man claims he will sue me for saying Apollo Legend paid him money. I removed that portion from my video, not because it was wrong, or it is wrong, but because this isn't the issue I want the court to go over. I'd rather he sue me over his fake Donkey Kong scores." On the same day, Mr. Jobs emailed Apollo Legend's brother, Jesse Gravel, relevantly saying, "Hope you're well. Just letting you know the footage of Ben has been removed from my video. I was hoping you wouldn't mind confirming something from me. In the video, I mentioned that as part of Ben's settlement with Billy, he was required to pay money. I received this information from a few sources, but not from Ben directly. Billy is threatening to sue me about this, claiming that I provided wrong information. I really don't want to ever give out the wrong information. Do you know if the money was exchanged?" And also to further add, I want to look at Apollo Legend's last actions, at least according to this lawsuit. And it says here on the 30th of December 2020, Apollo Legend published a video on one of his YouTube channels in which he said it was his final video and that this is the end of my life. He discussed his physical and mental health problems. He did not mention Mr. Mitchell on their settlement in the video, and he said this doesn't have to do with anyone really. The only debts he mentioned were unpaid taxes. And Apollo Legend also posted a message in which he went into further details about his childhood and his health issues, as well as criticizing the speedrun community as hypocrites. Notably, he stated by thanking Dark Viper and Easy Escape for giving him the final push that I needed. One might think that he's identifying people using these monikers as in having some way contributed to his decision to commit, take his own life. Again, he did not mention Mr. Mitchell nor any consequences of their settlement. Later that day, Apollo Legend took his own life. So that is something that I really want to stress about this here, is that even the person themselves did not mention Billy Mitchell at all, even though there was an ongoing, lawsuit with him and Billy Mitchell, even though there was a lot of, back and forth and all that. He did not mention him before he was gone. So the fact that Billy Mitchell's lawyers saw that or heard that and they said, well, we have some more leverage. And that's why, Billy Mitchell in the end won the case, because Carl did use something that he couldn't really substantiate. And that's where it was. And now, before we go into the follow-up action, I do want to say, as someone who followed this case, pretty frequently, the impression that I got, and after watching all the videos, was that Billy Mitchell was suing over the cheating because he's done it so much in the past, right? Because, every time someone mentions or criticizes his Donkey Kong runs, he says, all right, we're going to hit you with the lawsuit maneuver. But it turns out they don't even, that's not what the case was. And so I'm sure people who were donated money to this cause were like, hey, well, Billy Mitchell's at it again, so let's support it. But, so I did see some people saying, nope, they felt misled and all that stuff. And I will say, I was as well under the impression it was about the cheating, because given what you know about it and what I showed you when I showed you the emulation, it's like, okay, well, he's clearly using hardware that's not the original. So how did he do it? And so, yeah, that is that. So those are the really important parts of the lawsuit I really wanted to go over. And now I do want to show you some of Carl's tweets after the fallout of the lawsuit, because I think it gives you some insight of what happened. And so here he says, there are lots of lies being spread that I falsely claim Billy sued me because I said he cheated. I never claimed this. I only claimed it was relevant as part of my defense. I didn't openly discuss certain details for obvious reasons, but I was never trying to hide why I was being sued. In this video, I'll fully allow Billy to explain why he was suing me, and I specifically state that I chose not to go into too much detail because it related to the ongoing lawsuit. Furthermore, I never asked for money when Billy originally sued me. It was only after he sent me a second lawsuit and a threat of a third lawsuit, which were completely unrelated, that I needed crowdfunding. My total legal costs are well over 600k, so any money I received went to my lawyers. I did not intentionally try to deceive anyone or trick anyone just to defraud them or scam them out of their money. But the criticism that I should have been more transparent is valid, and I'm sorry. Truthfully, I didn't want to repeat any mentions or any claims regarding Apollo Legend because it may have jeopardized my defense. I never intentionally lied regarding Apollo Legend either. I relied on incorrect information from multiple sources. I retract the statements once I confirmed it was inaccurate, and apparently it was not sufficient. At some point, of course, I will produce a video discussing everything, and I still believe the decision was not the correct one. And he also says, in April 1st, okay, enough, I removed my last video. Obviously, people are upset about it. It's better I address the concerns of the public first and make a video explaining everything before releasing future videos. I will just ask you to wait for my video before making a full judgment. I'm sorry for releasing the video today. It was due to sponsor obligation, but that's far less important than addressing your concerns. So apparently he dropped a video or something. I didn't see it, so maybe people got it the wrong way, but yeah. So that's essentially where we are now with this whole Billy Mitchell stuff. And I do kind of want to preface that it's something that it happens to, I guess it happens to everyone who does anything investigative. But when it comes down to looking into somebody, you have to be very thorough that nothing can be used against you in like a court of law. And compare it to like, say I am, I don't know, you're an investigative journalist, okay? At least you have like a news team or something, or your news team might have hired a lawyer to tell you what you can or can't say in the public so you don't get sued. But in the case of like a YouTuber, you don't have that luxury. In case of like, you know, anyone must make a video on who knows who, and especially someone like Billy Mitchell, who, you know, is known for using, like I said, the lawsuit maneuver, the lawsuit tactic. Yeah, you have to be very, very careful about what you say and who you say it to. And of course, not every YouTuber has the luxury of having a lawyer going to go through all your stuff, because who has money for a lawyer to go through a YouTube video? Not many people. I wager maybe not even like 1% of you have that kind of money. So it's good to show that when it comes to any time you make a claim about somebody, you have to be very, very, very thorough. And it's kind of ironic too, because when it came to some other stuff I've seen Carl cover, he was very meticulous about his process, but it looks like he had a slight oversight when it came to the Billy Mitchell, and that's why he won. So I'm just going to say this in the most like nuanced position possible. Let's just take it as a way of like, yeah, when you investigate somebody, you know, you got to be careful. And this is like a sign for everyone who's doing this kind of stuff too. It's a signal for me too. I have to be careful with what kind of words I be saying. I know sometimes like it's very human, you might slip up on a couple of parts, but especially when you're doing a long research video, you have to be very meticulous. And I mean, mistakes do happen, but you want to limit those as much as possible. Because like I said, you're not trying to get sued, right? And by the way, I will say this too, even though I'm not a lawyer, I know like using the words allegedly is not exactly the silver bullet every time. So I will say that's also just want to mention that as well. And so that's basically it with the Billy Mitchell lawsuit. Is it the outcome everybody hoped for? No. Is Billy somehow like a saint after doing this? Of course not. But it just to show you that, like, yeah, be very mindful of when you're investigating. That's really what it is. Hopefully, you know, hopefully Carl can bounce back from this, but I don't know what you want me to tell you guys. Like, it is what it is. I don't know. I will say people saw a post on April Fool's like, this gotta be a joke. It's like, no, it's not a joke. But yeah, so just because the public sees something one way does not mean the court will also see it the same way. So yeah, that's basically it. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and follow my social down in the description below. But that's it today. See ya.